All right.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome out to our tax sale workshop tonight. We're going to be talking about Florida, but actually, I'm going to have Tom Swenson is actually going to be the one to kind of kick things off here for us. He's going to talk about a few things, and then then he'll hand it over to us.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody out here tonight. A couple things that as we get into this, that I want to talk to you guys about. We're going to definitely be talking about some Florida real estate and the opportunities that are coming up, but also tax liens, indeed investing in general. Tax sales for me are my favorite acquisition strategy. Tax liens being a great way to gain some interest on and to get a good return, but tax deeds is my favorite way to acquire properties. So as we get into this evening, there are a couple things that I want to go over with you guys as we get started. The first thing that I'm going to go over is the types of properties that we can potentially acquire through tax auctions. So there are obviously tax auctions, there are various types of properties that can be acquired through tax sales, everything from single family homes, duplexes, apartment homes, residential condos, commercial real estate, commercial office buildings, commercial lots, and all different types of, home building lots, home lots, raw land, mobile home lots, and even farmland and recreation. So there's a lot. Really, it encompasses the majority of the types of real estate that we can acquire, but instead of us paying, market prices, which we all know right now, the market's a little bit crazy as far as being able to acquire properties at a decent price, we're getting them for pennies on the dollar. So we'll get into what that looks like and how that is, and Steve and Shade are really going to do a deep dive with you guys this evening as we go farther into it. But there's a lot of opportunities that come from tax sales. Typically, one of the things that we talk about is we have our kind of what we call our 5-phase of investing system. So some of you might be investors and have already been doing it for a while. Some of you are just getting started. What we focus on is, for those of you that are brand new, a lot of places that will start is what we call phase 1 real estate, where we're buying and reselling land at huge discounts. Typically where I'll get a piece of land for, let's say 10 cents on the dollar at an auction, and I turn around and sell it to another investor for 50 cents on the 50 cents on the dollar. So as I get into small to medium land deals, there's a lot of things that we can do there where we can, let's say I bought a property for $2,000 that was worth 20, I can turn around and sell that for $10,000 to another investor and make 5 times my money as far as a return on investment. Phase 2 of what we call it is when we're buying and reselling homes with a physical property on them. So for example, there was a property at the Tulsa, Oklahoma last year auction that went for $12,000. The after repair value, that was one of the smaller properties. The after repair value was anywhere between 90 and 110,000 if a flipper put 25,000 into it. So in that case, you would have sold that for $40,000 to a flipper, so they still have plenty of room to make money. So for those of you guys that are wholesalers out there and looking to potentially acquire properties that way, that's another way to find really good deals that you can buy and resell to other investors. It's also where we're going to find the best returns across the board. So as we get into like phase 3, where we're doing fix and flips and we're fixing houses up, there's huge opportunities that come about across the board as far as flips. If I would have taken that same property in Tulsa we got for $12,000 and we would have put the $25,000 into it, we would have been into it for $37,000. And if we're selling it, let's say for, the ARV is between 90 and 110 depending on finish out. So let's say we put $100,000 into it, we sold for $100,000. There's almost $60,000 in profit or potential profit in that particular deal. So there's huge opportunities. We're going to show you facts, figures, examples, and case studies as we get into this and show you what we've been able to do, and even more importantly, what our students have been able to do as we move forward with investing. Phase 4 is when we start getting into the passive income strategies, where we're able to buy and hold properties for cash flow, get huge rates of return on our money if we're buying them through a tax sale versus if we're just buying them on the normal market. It's where we can also get into for lack of a better term, even though it's not really mailbox money anymore, it's usually deposits into a bank account, but what I still call mailbox money, where, rentals, if you can get a high rate of return, there's a lot of things you can do there, as well as tax liens and tax deeds. One of the things that I talk about as we get farther into conversations here is, I think all of us see those indicators that we're potentially heading for a recession. And tax deeds, especially, and tax liens are a recession-proof strategy. It's been around for over 200 years. Tax liens and deeds have been around for a long time. The opportunities have been around for a long time. So it's just a matter of us having really in a recession-proof business, because even with rental properties during a recession, rents typically go up, not down. And so there's a lot of different opportunities where if we're buying properties through a tax auction, the biggest part of it is we make our money when we buy. We collect our money when we sell it, rent it, or unload that investment. And then tax liens, obviously, everyone's been talking about the inflation that's been going on. But if we're getting an 18% return on our money, even with inflation, our money's still growing. So there's a lot of opportunities we're going to talk about today. And as we move through into different phases, these are all the types of properties and trainings and things that we do, as a company, as a training company, even up to commercial properties, where on tax auctions, there are multifamily properties, there are professionally, there are a lot of different things that we can talk about there. And there are some rules of that game that are very different than other types of real estate. But there's a lot of commercial property that we're seeing hitting the tax market, tax auctions. And for those of you that eventually want to build in commercial real estate, there's going to be some serious opportunities there. One thing I will tell you guys, I know most of those that are with us tonight are there in Florida, is we're actually going to be coming to your market here pretty soon. And so as we're going to be coming down there in a short period of time. But for me, one thing that I'll mention is before I get into that is that this is one of those opportunities where real estate's one of those things where we can make more potential money, than almost any other arena. And more millionaires, this Fortune magazine article said that 1,700 millionaires becoming millionaires every day. And as we read further into the article, the majority of that was through real estate. So this is either an opportunity time. It's, essentially with a recession coming, there's going to be more opportunities in real estate than we've seen in a long time. And what you have to ask yourself, are you going to be one of those people on that train, or are you going to let the train leave the station again and have to wait 10 to 15 years again for another recession to take advantage of those opportunities? And we're actually going to be coming to your market here in just about a week. We're going to be doing a 3-day training live in Orlando, Florida, a 3-day workshop. And we have only a few tickets left. We've got a total of 5 tickets left for those that want to attend. You can also bring a guest. And we're offering special pricing for $499 at that 3-day training live in Orlando, Florida from it's from April 22nd to 24th. So I'm sorry, I put that in there wrong. It's from April 22nd to 24th. So next weekend, we're going to be there with you guys. If you like what you hear today and you want to learn from us for 3 days on how to take advantage of these opportunities, we're also going to give you access to our membership, our monthly membership, which is normally $40 a month, and 6 months access to that, which is included with your 2 seats to that live training. So if you want to save a seat, there's 5 seats left that we have for that training next weekend. I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of this training today. That being said, I want to introduce you to the founders of the feast, so to speak, which is Stephen and Shade, who are the founding fathers of TaxSaleSupport.com. They've been doing this business for a long time. They attended their first tax auctions in the 90s, and there's very few people that I know that know tax liens and deeds. I could count on one hand that understand this business as deeply and as completely as they do. Our business has been around for a long time. If you ever get a chance to go to our YouTube channels, they go back 13 years. We've been providing training, in a lot of different arenas. Initially, we were providing for other companies, but when we decided it's a lot better if we can get directly to people and really help them succeed at this. And since 2016, Tax Sale Support has been a leader in the industry in tax lien and deed training, helping people use that as an avenue for their real estate investing. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and hand it back over to Stephen and Shade, and let's get into the training day and get you guys, up to speed on what's going on in the Florida market.
Hey, thank you, Tom. Yeah, Tom is actually Steven's brother, and I'm cousins with both of them. So it's been really kind of a family deal. But we love talking about Florida. It's a great place to invest. It's always been way ahead of the curve when it came to the tax sales that they conducted. They were the first to do a lot of things, and they've always had a ton of opportunities. So it's a hot real estate market, that we're excited to talk about. We're excited to go out there next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to the tax sale system, there's really three types. There's tax liens, tax deeds, and redemption deeds. Now, Florida is a unique state because they essentially have both tax liens and tax deeds.
Yeah, they're one of the states that utilizes more than one system, which is part of the reason why it can be a little bit confusing. So we're going to be talking about two different systems today. Basically, we're going to be talking about the ones that Florida uses, which is a tax lien system and a tax deed system, tax deed foreclosure system. We're going to talk about each one of these first, and then we'll get into more detail here about exactly how it works. And also, this is also important because Florida tax sales, the tax lien sales, are going to be happening here, just around the corner, next month.
Yeah, well, really, the auctions are going to be opening up within the next week.
Yeah.
Where you can actually start reviewing property and start bidding on property. So why do investors buy tax liens? Well, number one, you earn a good interest rate return, and that tax lien is secured by real estate.
Yeah, high levels of security, with the property that is attached to. It's also something that is enforced by state law. So really though, one of the big reasons why investors have traditionally loved tax liens is for their simplicity. The vast majority of tax liens end up redeeming, and when that happens, they just basically end up getting checks in the mail, for their initial investment plus a great rate of return. On a very safe investment.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when it comes to tax liens, here are a couple examples of some tax liens that were purchased by our members. These were actually what we call over-the-counter tax liens that we'll talk a little bit about later this evening. And these aren't necessarily the most sexy properties in the world, but we're looking at tax liens that range between $500 to about $1,300 on properties that are valued around 50 to 60 grand.
Yeah, these are all excellent tax liens. If you're looking for good tax liens, these all have the qualities that you would look for in good tax liens. They're all placed against properties that have a lot of use and value. The lien represents a very small percentage of the property's value. In addition to that, you're earning a good rate of return, at 14% on it. So, good investment with the chance to foreclose.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about what is a lien. Well, a lien is a legal claim placed against a property for unpaid property taxes or unpaid debt. And what that does is it prevents the sale of transfer, the sale of ownership.
Yeah, really what it does is it freezes the property in the place that it's in. And there are, the best way to understand it is with other types of liens that exist out there, like a mechanics lien. So if you were having work done, say you're building a house and you didn't pay the plumber, the plumber could go to, of course, nobody here would do that, but the plumber could go to the county and they could have a mechanics lien placed against the property. And what that lien would do is it would stop the property, the transfer of ownership. So they wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to close on the property as long as that lien was there. And the lien would be for the amount that was owed to the contractor. So tax liens are actually much stronger than even a mechanics lien.
Yeah, well, a mechanics lien is the only type of lien that is not government related. Usually tax liens are going to be issued by a government, whether that be the federal government, the state government, or the city government. Except for a mechanics lien, all other liens are going to be issued by a government. Otherwise, it would be something like a judgment or a mortgage.
Yeah. Now, one of the big things that liens do, and part of the reason why counties use them, is because they use property as collateral. Okay, so if you have a property that has delinquent taxes, then the entire property ends up getting included in the lien. So if somebody owes a couple $1,000s that year for their taxes and a lien is created, that lien is against their entire property, and its value, meaning that eventually it could lead to the loss of property if it's not paid within a set time.
Yeah, and so what the county will do is they're going to go ahead and schedule a tax sale where investors can go ahead and purchase that tax lien, which gives the county government money that they need and gives the lien holder a time frame to be able to pay the debt back.
Yeah, it's important to understand that the county is really only they're only interested in finding a way to collect the money they need in order to operate quickly. So in other words, if people are late on their property taxes, the county has active things they have to pay for. And so they need that money. The best way to do that is to sell a lien. So on the day of the sale, there's a number of things that are going to happen. The county issues liens against the property. The liens begin accruing interest and the redemption period on liens begin.
Yeah, now when it comes to interest rate returns, every state's going to have a time, an amount that they set for the maximum interest rate. Now it's going to accrue on an annual basis, monthly basis. And so essentially, if you're earning an 18% return and it's going to be broken up over 12 months, you're going to be earning 1.5% per month.
Yeah, and that happens when, let me just go right back there. I actually bumped my screen here. There we go. And yeah, it redeems when the person pays off their delinquent taxes and fees. So basically, when they pay off the county, the lien holder gets paid off and the lien is redeemed essentially. So that's an important aspect of tax liens.
Yeah, now also every county or auction or tax lien is also going to have a redemption period. And this is the time frame that the property owner has to pay the delinquent taxes before they can start the foreclosure process.
Yeah, it's kind of a grace period for the property owner. For the lien holder, it represents the time period that they'll have to wait before they can potentially take action with the lien and use it to foreclose on the property. So, for instance, redemption periods can range anywhere from 1 to 4 years, and they have to expire, before the lien holder can use that lien to foreclose on the property.
Yeah, so essentially, if you buy a tax lien, we're just sitting back waiting until that property owner does decide to pay. If it goes past that redemption period, then we can go ahead and start foreclosure.
So really, when you purchase a tax lien, what's generally going to happen is either one of two scenarios. It's really about the only thing that can happen, and they're all dependent upon the delinquent property owner and what they do, whether or not they pay the county or they don't pay the county. When they pay the county, then, which is what happens the vast majority of the time, the county can redeem the lien and cut a check to the investor for their initial investment plus the interest they earned.
Yeah, and this is what's going to happen 95% of the time. It's just going to result in checks in the mail, or very well could be direct deposit. In fact, here's a tax lien that we purchased in a live on-site auction back in 2006. It was a small lien, and this is part of the reason that we wanted to show this tax lien is that, we're talking about $130 lien, not a lot of money, and a couple of years later ended up getting a check in the mail for the initial amount that I paid plus an interest rate return.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about lien investing is that you don't have to necessarily invest large amounts in order to buy liens. It's something that you can very much buy smaller liens of. You can do it safely, and with smaller amounts.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, here's one of our student testimonials from one of our students that ended up buying a $4,300 tax lien, ended up getting a check for $4,750 and made $450 in profit just on interest.
Yeah, safe investment, you earn a great rate of return, and you always have that chance to foreclose, because that's really the second scenario. If the delinquent property owner doesn't pay and the redemption period expires, that lien can suddenly be used to foreclose on the property. Basically, it has foreclosure rights. So what that means is that you can initiate foreclosure, which is going to force that property owner to either pay off everything all at once here that's owed or lose the property.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as far as the tax lien foreclosure, like we mentioned, once it's hit the end of the redemption period, the lien holder can start that foreclosure process. Now, some states will assist with the foreclosure process, like Florida, South Carolina. Those are called self-executing states. There's other states where you're going to have to do the work yourself by hiring an attorney.
Yeah, which states like Arizona and Nebraska, you have to hire a real estate attorney that can basically handle the foreclosure for you. But in Florida, it's quite a bit easier because it's a self-executing foreclosure state. With Florida, the county is basically going to help with that foreclosure process. In fact, it kind of goes right along with the system that Florida uses.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's a couple examples of properties that were picked up through tax lien certificates. So the top one had a delinquent taxes of $9,400, had a Zillow value of about $290,000. Now, there would have been additional cost on top of this, attorney costs, so they may have spent an extra $2 or $3 grand in attorney costs, but essentially they were able to acquire this a $300,000 home for just over $10,000 in back taxes.
Yeah. Now we would have included, tax liens that were acquired in Florida, but it's not really how the Florida system works. This is where Florida is a little bit different. These particular properties were in Colorado, and in some tax lien states, at the end of foreclosure, at the end of the redemption period, the lien holder simply forecloses on the property.
Yeah, well, this is a non-self-executing state, so they would have hired an attorney and went ahead and did the foreclosure for them. Now, Florida is different than any other state in the country. The Florida tax liens are sold by the tax collector, and those tax liens are sold with a 2-year redemption period.
Yeah, so they have a 2-year redemption period, which is not too long. And that maximum 18% rate of return that they can earn. But where they start to differ is in what happens when the redemption period expires. So in other states where you might hire a real estate attorney and start the foreclosure process, in Florida, what you can do is you can apply for a deed. And when you apply for a deed, what happens is the county is going to include that property. They're going to start the foreclosure and include that property in one of the next deed sales that they have coming up. And the opening bid will basically consist of all of the money owed to lien holders.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're going to go through and explain exactly how tax deeds work, with these tax deed foreclosures. But if you're looking to acquire property in Florida, it's really going to be through the tax deed foreclosures auctions. They have both on-site and online auctions. And the starting, like Shay talked about, is going to start at the delinquent taxes, penalties, and fees. So whoever's really buying that property at the tax deed auction is going to be paying off the lien holder with their investment plus their interest rate return.
Yeah, so the opening bid pretty well pays off, any lien holders. The property simply redeems, at that point, just like it would if they had paid it on time. And the lien holders are going to earn their interest rate on it. But what doesn't happen though is again, the lien holders, because they offered at auction, the lien holders almost always end up getting paid by the buyers of the property. The only way that the lien holders can really end up getting the property is if it doesn't get purchased or nobody bids on it at auction, and then you'll see it go to the lien holder. But normally the only time that happens though is with properties that don't have a lot of use or value, or it's not worth foreclosing on.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, here coming up is a couple of examples of properties that were picked up by some of our coaching students, some of our membership there within Florida. The property there on the left was picked up for $8,500. The property here on the right is actually interesting. She picked it up for $13,500. And part of the reason we wanted to show you this is at the time it was valued about 60 grand. And this was a couple of years ago, and we said, you know what, we think this area is going to go up. Go ahead and rent the property out for the next couple of years, and we think the property is going to go up in value. Well, when she sent this in, the property had gone up to $95,000. She had received 2 years worth of rent checks coming in every single month. And now the property has gone up an additional $40,000 from when she sent this in last year. So, the market is going up, and not only was she able to buy it at a good price then, but it was also in an area that was able to go up where just by holding onto the property for a few years, it ended up paying for itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in Florida, basically what happens then for lien holders, they make it fairly simple. Once that 2-year redemption period has expired, the lien holder can submit a deed application. And what happens is the the tax deeds are actually handled by a different office, in the county. It's handled by the clerk of the court. And so they are the office that is going to go through the foreclosure on the property and the ones that are going to offer it at the tax deed auction. And so when it is offered up, the deed auction gets, when it's purchased anyway, all of the liens are paid off.
Yeah, and like Shade said, I mean, if you purchase tax liens, foreclose on them, and they end up not getting sold at the auction, that means that you bought the wrong liens. Because if the property has any good value and it's opening up at around 10 cents on the dollar, somebody's going to buy it there at the deed auction. And so if it didn't sell, it probably meant it was bad. But when it comes to tax deeds, really 3 things are going to happen before the sale. The first is the county's going to send out the final tax notice saying, okay, the foreclosure is happening here. They're also going to do a judicial foreclosure. And that's what makes tax sale investing unique, is because that judicial foreclosure is going to eliminate things like mortgages, things like judgments. And they're also going to set an auction date and post the auction list.
Yeah, and in Florida, they just happen to have a lot of online auctions, but they also still hold live sales, for a lot of these sales. And then on the day of the sale, they're going to offer up the property, where starting off with what's owed to all of the lien holders, and then anything that is, anything that the property sells for above that amount, basically ends up going into an account, where it, can be divvied up to first. If there are other lien holders that exist, but eventually it can go back to the original property owner that lost the property.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the day of the sale, the county's going to go ahead and offer that property up at auction, and whoever is the high bidder will essentially pay for the property. So a lot of times you're going to have cash on hand or transfer the funds over. In Florida, they'll usually give you some time frame. You'll put a deposit down, and then there'll be a certain time frame, 1 day, 2 days, to wire within the money. But they're going to require that money fairly quickly. So it's not like you can try to buy the property and then try to go get financing. You need to have the cash in hand ready to go ahead and get them paid.
Yeah. Now, after the sale, the county is going to record the deed, and they're going to mail that out to the new owner. So as you buy the property there, once it gets recorded and you receive, the deed in the mail, you can begin, your process to sell a property. Whatever your exit strategy is, you can pursue once you've received the deed.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really is, I mean, Tom talked about it a little bit in the beginning. We've been doing this. I mean, in fact, me and Shade first started in tax sale investing back in 1999. Like Shade mentioned, we were cousins, and I was a real estate agent, and my broker invited me to come out and tag along with him to an auction that he was going, and kind of explain tax foreclosures to me on the ride over. And that's what first sparked our interest and caused me and Shade to start trying to go attend auctions and start figuring out how this works. But it really is the best way to acquire property. This is a property here on the left that we ended up picking up for $1,800, had a value of over $20,000. This property here on the left was picked up by one of our coaching students, for $12,000. A nice single family home worth just over $100,000.
Yeah, both a couple of good examples of some of the different types of properties that we can go after. And the whole idea is, that it's one of the very few selling methods out there where the party that's selling it doesn't have a real, personal stake in what the selling price is, and how much it sells for. So you have that opportunity to be able to get properties at better deals. You're basically just either competing with other investors or trying to find, the best deals in different lists.
Yeah, now we're actually going to team you off to Tom for a few minutes, where he's going to talk about wholesale and some of the wholesale investing tools and strategies that we use. And then he'll turn it back over to us. And what we're going to go through is talk about the ways to buy tax liens through on-site, online, and over-the-counter investing, and then actually spend a couple of minutes looking at a couple of upcoming auctions, looking at a few properties, and doing a quick evaluation for them before we finish out tonight's call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, you available?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. So wholesaling these properties, or when we buy the properties and we own them, like I said, that's one of my strategies that I really like with tax auctions, because I can sit down and figure out what that situation is, and I can typically do a direct transfer after it's done, especially with smaller properties. If I get something for, let's say, $2,000 or $3,000, it's worth $20,000 or $30,000. If I turn around and sell that at 50 cents on the dollar, I'm buying it cheap and I'm selling it cheap. So I want to leave plenty of meat on the bone for that next investor. And that's typically who we're selling these properties to. We're not trying to sell them retail. We're not getting realtors involved and everything else. We have some very specific strategies that we're going to be, we don't have time to get in depth in that on this call, but as we get into, for those of you who attend with us to that 3-day training, we're getting in depth on how we actually go about and what the exit strategies are. The biggest trick to tax sales in general is making sure that we've done the right research going in, because if the property's good going in, we're going to make money on it when it goes out. And I see every single day people buy bad properties at tax auctions, but I also see people buy great properties at tax sale auctions. And fortunately, because of the way that we research and analyze deals, we end up buying the good properties. So this basic wholesale strategy that I'm going to talk about first is something that we can do quickly, typically with properties that are smaller, where we're selling for under $30,000 or $40,000. Most of those transactions are going to be cash deals. So if I buy a property for $5,000, it's worth $25,000, and I turn around and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar, especially like a land deal, I'm giving them that land, it's still half off. And before you guys were on this webinar tonight, if you got a property for half off, obviously that's still a good deal, especially in this market, and there's other things you could do with it. But we made our money just buying it cheap and selling it cheap. So we bought it for $5,000, sold it for, let's say, even $20,000, and sold for $12,000, or or $5,000, sold for $20,000. We made 4 times our money. And so we made a huge return on our investment, but we left plenty of meat on the bone for that next investor to be able to do it, because they bought it for 20 and it's worth 50, or they bought it for 25 and it's worth 50. And so we want to leave plenty of meat on the bone so that they can still make money, but it also gives us an opportunity to move those properties quickly, because when we do it that way, even land deals sell very, very quick. And as I get into this next slide here, I'll get into some more examples of case studies of both land and houses. Like this particular house was picked up very cheaply, and we're able to turn around and sell it for $22,900. So literally the purchase price is 50 cents on the dollar. And they have different options. In this particular situation, we are marketing it more as a potential rental, but the current value of that property being $45,000, we picked it up for under $10,000. And so getting a quick return on our money, making a good amount of return on our money, but still make sure that there's plenty of return for somebody else. So in this case, those of you that are familiar with rentals, if you're getting a 30% cap rate, if you buy this potential rental property, even if they buy it for 22 and they have to put a few dollars in to get rent ready, they can make a huge rate of return on the property. Some of the other case studies in the next slide here, hold on, yep, there it goes, are some examples of small land deals. Sometimes we can get them really cheap, like in this case, we bought this property for $741, turn around and it's worth $9,000 to $10,000, turn around and sell it for 50 cents on the dollar, and there's a $4,200 net profit. So taking $741, so I'm giving you really small examples here so you can see that can happen on a small or a big scale, depending on how much money you want to invest into tax sale properties. This one, sometimes we even get them as small as $100, which that in case is a very small property, right? That was an over-the-counter deal that one of our coaching students got, and they sold it for $2,900 with a taxes value of $6,000 or $7,000. So they sold it for $2,900 to another investor, and they made a $2,800 profit. That doesn't sound like much, but when you think in the terms of percentage rate returns on your money, they're making 2,800% returns on their investment in that case. So from my perspective, I'm looking at those huge returns on the money, because for those of you that need to grow money quickly, you have to get massive returns in order to be able to do that. And when you're making, 300, 400, 500% returns up to this example of a $2,800% return, you can grow your money quickly and actually start seeing results. And as I go to the next slide here, there's different types of wholesale strategies. So those are kind of the basic wholesale strategies, the smaller deals, the quick turnarounds, but there are much larger potential wholesale deals for those of you guys that have more capital to work with, where you're wholesaling land deals, fix and flip properties to other investors as a fix and flip, as a potential rental like that first one I showed you, and even commercial deals. So there's all different types of properties that you can potentially buy and then wholesale to other investors and make huge returns on your money. With the advanced wholesale deals, typically we're going to focus on big parcels, buildable lots. It's really important that we're looking at rezoning and redesignating. I'm going to get a lot more detailed into this as we, during the course of our 3-day training that we're doing next weekend with you guys. But we're going to rezone, redesignate. Sometimes doing things a little bit different can create huge returns. There was a property that we redesignated in San Antonio, Texas, and just selling the lot, we made over $200,000. Here's an example of a case study that one of our members picked up, which was a 27 acres in New York. And they picked up that property for $30,000, and they got an offer from a guy with it before they even had a chance to try and resell it, to sell it for $80,000, and it was worth a little over $300,000. So he decided to take the quick money and take 30 grand and turn it into 80,000 and made a $50,000 profit, just because he found a good deal. Because having a good real estate deal is, gives you all the ball in your court on all the different options that you could have done with that. And so in this case, he just got rid of it quickly, passed it off to another investor, but more than double his money in the process. So there's big and small deals that we'll talk about in different strategies that we can look at. So here's some examples of properties in Missouri where, we're paying somewhere between $10,000 or $20,000 or $22,000 for the property, but they have a larger value price. So in the case where I can even make more money is potentially have it as a potential rental and what they can do. And when we do that often, during the case where we'll actually sometimes even take them all the way to turn them to a rental. But if we want a quick wholesale deal, then we'll just sell them off as is as a potential rental, understand the rents and the situations in the months, the situations in that particular, area. And so they know what kind of returns that they can get. So these are things we're going to do a deeper dive on, but we can actually, these are properties that, we're acquiring and making huge returns. In the case of that first property here on the left, that was acquired for under $20,000. And turn around and selling it for $48,000 obviously gives us a pretty good return on our investment. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there. I know Stephen and Shade are talking a lot about Florida. We're going to focus on that, but there's a lot of other markets where you don't even have to hold the property. You just buy it and resell it and make your return. And you never have to worry about getting a contractor or a realtor or anybody else involved. You just pass it off to other investors. And so there's a lot of those things that we're going to do a deeper dive on, but I want you guys to really understand the opportunity there. And those are some of the things that we think about, and then we're going to be covering much more in depth during our 3-day live training, which now I think we only have 4 tickets left because we already had someone sign up. But there's a 3-day, that 3-day price is only $499. The training is going to be happening next weekend. One thing that we're so confident in our training that you're going to enjoy what you get, that if you pay the $499, and at the end of the first day of training, you don't feel it's for you, you can actually let the team know in the back and cancel that training, and we'll give you a full refund of that $499. That's how confident we are that you're going to have an amazing experience, a life-changing experience, and we're going to teach you the details of how to do all of those things. Everything from researching tax records to researching the assessors and the clerk, the clerk records, so we understand exactly what we're getting, evaluating the property values, and how to avoid our risk by doing the right research. We're also going to cover the fundamentals of how to do fix and flip properties and how to understand and put together a rehab budget. So when you're selling a potential fix and flip, you can give them accurate numbers when they're looking to buy it. And the same is true with like rental properties and even commercial properties. We're going to get into the numbers there so you know everything of what to do and what can be happening on with that case. And as ongoing support after that 3-day, we give you 6 months access to our 3-day or to our monthly membership, which includes literally thousands of pages of materials, of written materials. And there's a weekly live webinar that Stephen and Shade, who you're learning from right now, do every single week that you're able to take action on. And all of the auction calendars and all of the over-the-counter lists and all of those things to help you get into this investment strategy quickly. So there's a lot that you get for that $499. But most importantly, in my mind, is that we're confident enough in what we do that if you decide that that it's not for you after day one, we'll give you a full refund. We want to work with people that want to work with us, and we want you to have a great experience. And so we're happy to do that and offer that as part of what we're doing here. And that's how confident we are, is that we offer a one-day money-back guarantee. So if you guys decide to attend on April 22nd to 24th, plan on having a great experience, but we'll immediately get you on the membership right away so you can start taking advantage of that. And we'll look forward to seeing you next weekend. And, so definitely make sure to call into the number to 800-425-8066, 8068, if that's something that you want to take advantage, and we can definitely help you there. I'm gonna turn the time back over to Steve and Shade so they can get into some more information about the Florida markets in particular. And even, I think Steve and Shade, you said you were gonna to go over some live examples.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. What we want to do is we want to go through and quickly explain the buying methods of on-site, online, and over-the-counter investing, and then go look at a couple of upcoming auctions, give you an idea of property tax list, and look at a couple of deals.
Yeah. So there's really only two ways you can buy tax liens and deeds. It's either through an auction or directly from the county after the sale, or over the counter as we call it. But on-site auctions are the oldest way that the tax sales have been conducted. It's also probably still the most common way that they're conducted. There's a lot of online auctions now, but there's still a lot of live sales taking place.
Yeah, absolutely. The one good thing about on-site auctions is you're really just dealing with local competition. So there's not a lot of investors flying into certain areas. With like online auction, it's open to everyone. So there is a good opportunity to get better interest rate returns at an on-site auction if we're investing in tax liens, or even getting property for cheaper on the dollar at an on-site auction. So if there is one available, it's definitely worth attending.
Yeah, so these are a couple of examples here of tax liens that our members bought in Florida. And again, like we said, those sales are actually starting up here really soon. We can say they earned rates of 12.75%, 14.5% on these liens, which represent a very small percentage of the property's value, with properties that have definitely high value in use.
Yeah, so there was some bidding, but they were still able to get some pretty good rates on these tax liens. In fact, here's a tax deed property that was picked up by one of our coaching students just recently. Now, this was an on-site auction. It wasn't there in Florida, but I still think it's a good example to review.
Yeah, well, and Tom mentioned before how he wants to get more into property rezoning and stuff, and this is one of those properties that would be ideal for that type of thing. It's 17.5 acres that would be excellent for for some kind of development here. You can see, and with a ton of potential profitability in it.
Yeah, so it has a value of $665,000. Was able to get picked up for $60,000. Huge potential, like Shade said, for development. Even just selling it outright or wholesaling it, you could make a ton. But there's definitely plenty of profitability when you're buying property like that for around 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, one of the advantages of live auctions is that you're just competing with the people that can actually attend, and be at that auction. But online auctions are probably the direction that things are going. Eventually, I'm sure just about everything will probably eventually switch over to online auctions, which is good for us in a lot of ways because it only makes it easier for us.
Yeah, now what exactly, Shade's right with that. When it comes to online auctions, they're going to include a ton of information like tutorials, packets. In fact, a lot of them will even have practice auctions or webinars so that you understand how their system works, you understand how to bid. And they also have links many times. They're going to take you directly back to the county records. So it makes researching the properties, tax liens, tax deeds a lot easier because you can quickly access the county record information unlike maybe a PDF or Excel file where we're going to have to type in or copy and paste the parcel number into a parcel search tool to look up those records.
Yeah, it's almost always faster to perform research with online auctions than with live sales. These are a couple of other member examples here of tax liens that were purchased. Again, earning they're not big liens, $2,200 and $1,100 lien. They're earning 10.25% and 14%. Very good examples of what's indicative of Florida.
Well, and Florida can get pretty competitive. So there's strategies that we teach during the 3-day and, to our membership where we can try to get better rates. Now, when it comes to Florida, like Shade said a little earlier, is a pretty good state when it comes to tax sale investing, and it's been doing it for a long time. Now, when it comes to their tax lien auctions, I would say around 80% of their tax lien auctions are held online.
Yeah, our online auctions, so there's a smaller percentage, close to maybe 15-20% of Florida counties that still hold their live sales for their tax liens.
Yeah. Now the tax deed auctions, it's going to be more of about 50-50. So there is still a lot of counties that are holding on-site auctions in addition to online auctions. In fact, here's a couple of properties that we picked up personally a couple of years ago there in Florida through an online auction. That property on the top was picked up for 10 grand. And what we actually did to that property is we did a wholesale deal. We sold it to somebody who was renting the property, got over 100% return within a week or 2 weeks of acquiring the property, and just sold it to them. The property there on the bottom ended up picking it up for 20 grand. It had a value then of 85 grand, and ended up rehabbing the property and actually rented the property out. And that property has gone up in value an additional $50,000 over the last 2.5-3 years.
Yeah. So when we're looking at the online auction providers for Florida, there are really 3 main providers, and they are RealAuction.com, Grant Street Group, and Tax Certificate Sale.
Yeah, well, in Real Auction and Grant Street Group, we'll do both tax lien and tax deed auction, where tax certificate sale is just tax liens only.
So another way that you can also acquire liens is over the counter. And what we're talking about there is simply purchasing the liens shortly after the sale has taken place, because not all liens get bids, or at least if liens don't get bids for whatever reason, and the sale takes place, they end up over the counter, and you can purchase those liens. And there are certain advantages to buying them after the sale when the inventory is there.
Yeah, well, automatically you're going to get the highest interest rate return. So in Florida, that's going to be 18%. Depending on how far you purchase that lien into the redemption period, like in the case of some liens, we'll purchase a year or a year and a half into a 2 or 3 year redemption period. That means you can start the foreclosure process in a shorter period of time because you're already a year and a half into the redemption period. But like Shade said, when we're talking about Florida specifically, when there are over-the-counters, or when they do offer the over-the-counters, you really need to jump on them very quickly, because what's going to happen is any good tax liens, over-the-counter tax liens, are going to get picked up within a week or 2, 3 weeks, definitely within a month of getting posted after the May sale.
Yeah, well, and the reason why is because people are earning the maximum rate of return on them, and so it's kind of a no-brainer, with from an investment perspective, so whenever we have the chance to get the Florida over-the-counter liens, we want to jump on them, because like Steve was saying, it doesn't last very long.
Well, and that's something we'll talk about, there during the 3-day is strategies on how to pick those up and take advantage of the over-the-counter sales when they get listed. Here's a couple of examples. These aren't necessarily Florida tax liens. We looked at some Florida ones earlier. These ones were picked up in the state of Nebraska. Picked up for $900. The other one's $658. A couple of commercial properties, and chances are these are going to get paid off. 95% of the time, their tax liens are going to redeem. So usually you're just going to get checks or direct deposits of your investment plus your return.
Yeah. But there's always that chance to be able to foreclose on tax liens. You know, it does happen, especially in places like Nebraska where you can still acquire property. But there's also over-the-counter tax deeds, you know, that are out there. So if tax deed properties are offered at auction and they aren't purchased, then the county puts them back on the books, and they can generally be purchased starting with what's owed in delinquent taxes and fees. And that would be the case for states around the country.
Yeah, when it comes to over-the-counter tax deeds in Florida, like we mentioned before, if the property doesn't get sold at the deed sale, there's probably an issue why. And so there is actually a lot of over-the-counter tax deeds properties in Florida. The problem is the back taxes are usually there's going to be some type of issue with them. So even if a property has value, let's say there's a $20,000 building lot that's usable and has value, there's going to be $17,000 worth of back taxes on this property, and so nobody ends up buying it. So there's not as much opportunity with over-the-counter in Florida. There is still a lot of property, but you're going to have to look through a lot to try to find something that slipped through not getting purchased at the auction.
Yeah, but there are other places around the country.
All over the country, there's a lot other better opportunity, and it's really kind of unique to Florida because of the way that their system is set up with being, tax liens and both tax deeds.
Yeah, they just don't end up with a lot of over-the-counter inventory that's buyable because it's underwater. In fact, we may get a chance to look at some of it.
Yeah, in fact, some of when it comes to these type of properties, Tom kind of talked about some of those stages. This is generally the type of properties that we'll start with our coaching students, help them get their feet wet. You can see property, on the far left, $150, sold for $3,000, $569 sold for $2,500, $100 sold for $3,500. These range from about a 500% return all the way up to a 3,500% return, which is awesome. You're getting a great return, but even more importantly, you're gaining that experience to do bigger and larger deals.
Yeah. The whole idea is to help, to help them get through a couple of successful transactions. Make some money, hit a couple of home runs is kind of what the goal is with them in the beginning. So let's go review a few Florida sales and kind of show everybody exactly how it works.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up our website because that's going to be where we're going to access any of our tax sale list, online auctions, anything like that. So from here, you can see that the website is broken up. We have, the member center, the training center, the list center. Well, the list center is where we have our auction calendar, where we'll have between 200 to 500 auctions each month. We'll have over the counters, but we'll also have our online auction tab. And here you can see both the tax lien and tax deeds. Let's go ahead and click on tax lien first, just so we can look at some of the different counties that have upcoming auctions that'll be taking place over the next 30 days. So as we scroll down, here we are in Florida. We first have Florida real auction websites. Go ahead and click on one. And you can kind of see what the format looks like. If we want to check to see when this auction date or when it might be open, we can click on the buying rules to the left and see if it is open yet or when it will be opening. Scroll down a little further.
No, they don't have their date set.
No, yeah.
It'll probably be in July, early July.
Well, most likely they're all going to be opening up here with by May 1st.
Yeah, it's got.
So they'll open it up and they may end it on there. I would think that it's probably going to be open up here pretty quickly. That's for the county held.
Oh yeah.
So it did open up then for the county held. So they haven't opened it up. It's still doing the county held sale, but you could click on preview items for sale and look at any of these county held liens. So we could click on one of these liens right here. Click on that 2017 one right there. We can see that this is a vacant lot. It's a $216 lien worth the assessed value of $1,800. Now, one thing that you need to watch out for is something on the left-hand side underneath the certificate summary, because we can see that face value of the tax lien, which is $216, but we also see additional unpaid certificates, $7.
So 7 of them.
Yeah, 7 of them, sorry.
Yeah, and we can actually look and see them right here. And this is one of the risks of the over-the-counter liens in Florida, and why, you know, they may be available to purchase all year long, but there's only good ones around for the, you know, for a couple of weeks after the sale. And that's because you end up with a lot of these. So if we look at this and we can see the certificate history on it, what happens in Florida is they allow up to 7 years of delinquent taxes on the property, and then they start to roll off. You know, so you know, they'll only have up to 7. But what that means, though, is that if property taxes aren't paid, you can have 7 tax liens that are all accruing interest at the same time, and they could all be sitting there over the counter, you know, on the books, or maybe somebody, you know, might have purchased one. But you can see that we'd have to pay all of these off if we wanted to be able to foreclose on the property.
Yeah, so you could, in theory, go ahead and buy that 2017 tax lien. It looks like it's still available, and you know, start the foreclosure process, you know, really immediately. But to do that, you're going to have to pay off all of those other tax liens as well. So, you know, suddenly we're looking at, you know, $1,000 plus there's going to be the deed application fee, which could be a couple $100 as well. So suddenly we're looking at $1,500 in foreclosure costs to foreclose on this property for a property that has a valuation of $1,800.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can't just go and just purchase a tax lien without looking into those kind of things. You're going to end up losing money.
You know, that's the reason too why we see tax liens here that are for the year 2014, and it's because that's the oldest year that we can, you know, that we can see if there's up to 7 years worth of bad, you know, worth of tax liens. So when we're looking through this and we see, you know, a lot of these that are, you know, 2014 or 2015, it's because they have nearly the maximum number of, you know, of liens against them, and these are old liens. So
yeah,
look at almost any of these is probably going to be the case.
Yeah, and when you foreclose on a tax lien in Florida, you're going to have to pay off any other liens on that property. So in this case, you're going to have to pay off all of those other those 7 liens, and then it's going to go to auction at that opening bid of the total back taxes. And that's the reason why we said in the beginning, if your property doesn't sell at the deed sale, there's issue with the property. You probably shouldn't even have done the foreclosure. And it's going to go on to what's called the list of lands, which is there over the counter, but it's going to be what we consider a toxic deed. Even if the property is usable, there's so much back taxes on the property that's built up over the last 7 years, earning 18% interest, that it's no longer a viable investment.
Yeah. Now, you know what, we should go and look at some of the online deeds too. Maybe we'll see liens that you know, we can look in results, or we might be able to see liens, at least see the deeds, you know, that we know are liens that are foreclosed on.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go look at some upcoming auctions. So here we went ahead and clicked on the tax deeds, and we can see, you know, here the Florida tax deeds that are taking place. Should we go ahead and, what do you want to go to, Miami or Brevard, or what you thinking?
Any of them.
Let's check Miami.
All right, so let's go right here. You know, being one of the real auction sales here, they use the same website. So they create a new website for every county that they have, you know, they hold a sale for, and the websites always look like this. So, you know, we can, we wanted to take a look at the auction calendar and see what sales are happening. We can see that these are all of the bank foreclosures, you know, that they have in blue. And then we can see that over here, you know, every Thursday they have a tax deed auction, you know, including, you know, today, you know, they have one that just happened.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look in May. Let's see if we have any. So they do have some happening on the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th. We'll go ahead and check any of them, I guess.
Let's look here at the 5th. You know, the property's coming up here on the 5th. Got less time to redeem, and we can see. So these properties here, we can actually kind of get an idea. Oh yeah, look at that one. Yeah, this one's a high-end condo.
Yeah, definitely a higher end condo.
Yeah, it's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 3.5 bath, condo unit that we can see here, valued at, almost 1.2 million.
Yeah, definitely high value. Now, as we're looking at this, what we like to do is something we call the quick glance method. And so what we're going to look at is just the basic information that's available right there. We can see the opening bid amount. We can see the parcel number. We can see an address. We can see the assessed value. So we're going to look at that opening bid amount and look at the assessed value. We can see an address there. It's a property that we're going to want to look into. Now, if we looked at the opening bid amount and it was 23 grand and the assessed value was 23 grand, well, it may not be a property that we're going to be interested in.
Yeah, then there are some properties like this one where if they have a homestead exemption, then they're going to have the bidding higher. So they're going to force the bidding to start at half of the estimated value of the property plus the taxes, fees that are owed. So that's why this property has, a $96,000 opening bid for $160,000 assessed value.
Yeah, go ahead and go up a little further. I want to take a look at that vacant lot that was up there a little further. So there's a vacant lot that opens up at 12 grand, has an assessed value of 64,000. Let's take a look at it and see if it's usable. Now, when we're looking at land, one of the things that we are always looking for is we want to make sure that the land is accessible and that it has what we consider use and value. And it's usable, it has road access to it, and we can do something with it. Now, in looking at this property, I'm not 100% sure that it does have road access.
I don't think it does.
It might, you can see kind of, down there.
Yeah, that's the closest road.
See that kind of road there? I mean, they might have legal access along the lines, but it's not typical of something that has direct legal access. Where we'd have to check into it to make sure.
Yeah, it looks like the road's planned.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could legally probably drive out there to it if you were on that road, but it's not typical. We'd have to look into a little bit more because, it's not your average residential lot.
Yeah.
We could look at that home right there opening up or a property opening up at 15 grand. We can see the value there at 146 grand. And, we can look it up through Google and click on the county record information to see more into it. Now, one thing we don't have time to go through today is we're going to research this property. We're going to research the condition. We're going to research the value, but we're also going to research for other types of governmental liens. And that's something that we talk about during the 3-day and teach how to do, because the one thing that can survive a judicial foreclosure is going to be some other type of government lien, whether that be a federal lien, a state lien, or the most common type is going to be some type of city lien. So if the city had to send somebody out there to mow the grass because the property had been abandoned or pick up junk or anything like that, they're going to place a nuisance lien on the property, and that's usually the most common type of lien on tax sale properties.
Well, that must be it here.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, it's 164.55.
Also, one thing we're going to do is we're never going to just trust the online information and consider that in making our decision on structured property. Part of the reason we start with land is because we can invest in it in many cases sight unseen. But when it comes to any type of structured property, we're going to send somebody out there or view the property ourselves to judge the condition before actually bidding on the property, because there's many times that investors will bid on a property just to find out that the property had been burnt down the month before.
Yeah, actually, so you can see interior images of this property back whenever they tried to list it for sale.
Yeah. You can also see how that property has been going up, pretty consistently since 2000. Actually, that's one of the most consistent properties I've seen in a while, as far as the way that it's been going up in value.
Yeah, a little tiny bump right there, in May of 2020, and then just right back up.
So, overall, this looks like a pretty good property that we might be interested in. At that point, we're going to do a lot more due diligence on it to make sure that it is.
Yeah. boy, I bet all of these look pretty nice. You know, these properties too, because these properties are about to be foreclosed on, you know, you're going to see a lot of these properties redeem. You know, some of these properties will redeem, you know, before the auction because people figure out some way to pay it off, or somebody that has a financial interest in the property, you know, steps forward and pays it off to help to avoid foreclosure.
Yeah, in fact, one of the strategies that we teach is how to be able to buy these properties without actually attending the auction, called, you know, what we consider a pre-foreclosure or pre-sale strategy. And it's actually something that we talk about and teach our students how to do. And so some of those properties will be approached by pre-investors working out deals to buy the property before it actually gets sold at the auction.
Another high-end condo. You know, there's a bunch of high-end condos here.
Yeah, and so what we're looking at here are the county record information. So you can see here on the left-hand side, some of the basic information, you know, the bedrooms, baths. We can see it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. We can see the living area being around 880 square feet. It built in 1981. So automatically we have a better idea on the property. As we scroll down, we're going to have additional information, the assessment information. We can see over there on the right-hand side at the top if there was a homestead or if there was any type of homestead tax on it.
You know, it looks like there's some kind of exemption there, but added some, but not enough to, you know, to give it a full homestead.
Yeah, well, it's non-homestead cap, I guess. You know, underneath the tax value is actually where we can see the exemption value if there was some type of homestead exemption.
Yeah.
You know, as we scroll down, we're going to get into the sales information. And what makes Florida nice is their online records. You can see the book and page number. We can go ahead and click on those and pull up the deed information and research that. And so, you know, that's something that we teach our members and our 3-day investors and our coaching students is how to go through and evaluate these records and determine, you know, what the property is. And then also there's tools that we can use online to search for other type of governmental liens. So we can see that this property was issued with a warranty deed. We're going to check to make sure that that owner's name is the same as that's listed on the property. There's a series of steps that we're going to take before investing into the tax deed property. You can't just go out there and invest without researching, without doing the proper research. That's the easiest way to lose money. And there's investors every single year that are losing money because they didn't properly research the property before buying.
Yeah, it's definitely something that it's easy to make mistakes. You know, if you are just buying, you know, stuff that you see and you're not actively doing the research on it or checking for some of the warning signs or things that can go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. Do we want to look at another sale here?
Yeah,
or
let's check out one more county real quick, and we'll just show you a different type. Scroll down further to the Grant Street. Let's go ahead and check Palm Beach or Broward. This is just a different type of tax deed auction using a different type of service. So Broward County.
There we go, right there.
Oh, they might have went to real auction. They switched over. So
oh, they did, huh?
Click on Palm Beach.
Oh, that was Palm Beach.
Oh, click on Broward then.
All right, so this is an example of Grant Street Group. So let's try clicking on.
I have an auction coming up on the 20th.
Yeah, so you can see that it started off, you know, the list was originally had 91 properties when it started, you know, a bunch of them have redeemed, but this sale is also scheduled to happen within, you know, 5-6 days. And so the setup though is different. We have, we basically have lists that can be drop-down boxes, you know, where we can view information about the property. So, you know, we can see just the opening bid amount until we, you know, click down the drop-down box to see more information about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just go through the same parcel. You can see where underneath the parcel number, we can click on that link to pull up the property record information. We would go ahead and evaluate the property. But there's definitely a ton of opportunity. I mean, even if you saw there in Palm Beach, there was 3 auctions happening this month, 3 auctions happening next month. you know, there's auctions happening every single month in a lot of these different counties. So for those investors that are they're local, there's not only opportunity for you to invest at the online auctions, but for those that live within areas, you can also attend some of those on-site auctions where you're just really going to be dealing with some of the regular Florida investors there at some of those on-site sales as well.
Oh, this one is a commercial. That's what it is, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a little business commercial place.
Yeah, pretty nice.
Yeah.
But this kind of give you an idea of some of the properties that are coming up and some of the opportunities.
Another condo, I think. Now let's see. Yeah, it looks like a condo here. Yeah, we can see images here from 2014 anyway, but we can see it's a condo, you know, complex here.
Yeah.
You know, starting off at 6,000, you know, with an estimated value there of 83. You know, this one here starts off at 29,000, estimated value of 282,000.
Well, if you look underneath the applicant there, you can see that is actually the lien holder, that HMF Florida A LLC. You can see their custodian. They're essentially a company that goes in and buys liens and then goes ahead and forecloses on them. And so with Florida, it's an area to get guaranteed interest rate returns. In fact, if the lien holder ends up redeeming within the first year, regardless of what you bid the interest down to, there's going to be a 5% penalty. So you're always going to make 5%. So if you go ahead and buy the lien, and let's say they redeem the very next week, you're still going to make a 5% return off your investment. And there's a lot of Florida liens that are going to redeem within the first 6 months.
And check it out too. It's the same applicant on several of these liens.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got that same HMF applicant here on this one, which is another condo. Let's see. Oh no, this is a house.
Man, that's got some serious issues.
Yeah, it does have some serious issues on that house.
But you can see how a lot of these are removed. And some of them, of course, are just going to be the property owners redeeming the property. But there's also opportunity to contact some of these property owners and say, hey, you know, I understand your property is coming for sale up at a tax deed auction, and try to work out a deal with them before the auction actually happens.
Yeah. Let's see what that one is. Another little single family house here, you know, starting out at 15,000.
Yeah.
And we've got, let's see, starting at 30,000, valued at almost 300. And it's another little house.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice home. A lot of good opportunity coming up for sale. In fact, we'll go ahead and turn this over. But before we do, go ahead and go back to the website real quick and go to the 3-day. And we'll just grab the 3-day link and we'll go ahead and put it in the chat section. So if you are interested, you know, there's probably a couple of seats left still. Go ahead and you can fill out the form and contact us. There's a link after you fill out the form that you can go ahead and sign up for the event if you'd like as well. But if you are interested in tax lien and deed training, it really is going to be the best value. We're going to give you 6 months access to the membership. The membership's $40 a month as is. So that's nearly $250 value in our membership. And why the membership's going to be important is that's going to help give you the tools after the 3-day, give you access to our list, to our weekly webinars, to our forum support, to keep you going in the process of building a tax sale business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and turn this over to the last bit to Tom, and we appreciate you guys, you know.
Yeah, joining us and spending the time with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And one thing I know is we do a deep dive in over a full 3 days of training where we're going through things from like 9 to 5 or 6 every single day. There's a lot of details that we can get into in real life scenarios and case studies, you know, to show you how to go about and make that happen so that eventually you can work through as many phases of the system that we've put together as far as investing goes, where you can start with low barrier to entry type scenarios with small to medium land deals and build into bigger and bigger transactions over the course of, of your investing career. Because right now, like I said, now is the time to get into, to tax liens and deeds, just because the opportunity is bigger. On the normal years, when the years are good, we average the last several years, there's been between about 15 and 17 billion dollars in tax sales every year. Last year there was close to 24 billion dollars. This year it could go as high as 30 billion dollars in tax sales. So with everything that's going on in the economy and the opportunity, some of you guys really might want to think about having some recession-proof income on a way to really build yourself into, more financial freedom, get into real estate for the first time, or even, like I said, build into different phases to where eventually you have passive income. When we look at this 5-phase system, the first 3 phases are what we call active income strategies, where they're building capital in a short period of time. If I buy a small or medium land deal or a house and I turn around and resell it and make a profit, I get a big chunk of cash, but I got to go find another deal. Same thing with a fix and flip, which I've personally had a lot of experience in fix and flip properties over, the last decade. I've been involved in over 100, well over 100 of those types of deals, and about 60 of them just in the last 6 years in Texas. So there's a lot of deals that we've done, and we're giving you our real life experience and sharing our real life results and showing you in detail, what we do and why we do it across the board. So there's going to be a great training there. We're going to be there with you guys, the same ones that are speaking with you here, myself, Steve, Shade. We're going to be out there working with you, during those 3 days. And it's held there just in Orlando, Florida. Because one thing, as I go to this next slide here that you guys will see, is that real estate, in my mind, can give you the best returns, the most amazing returns if you buy it right. That's the big key, is you have to buy it right. You have to understand the research, because where people don't make money in tax sales is when they haven't done the right research. If you do the right research, the opportunities are scalable. You might start out buying a little $2,000 small land deal and selling it for $10,000, to another investor. But then from there, those things get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At the Tulsa, Oklahoma, the auction, Steven and Shade and I went to that last year. We actually, the biggest property that sold at that auction sold for $650,000. And the tax assessed value on that commercial piece of property, is 6 acres commercial land right downtown, was about $5.5 million. Retail value after improvements could have been $6 to $8 million. So this is scalable, the opportunity from small to big deals and what you can take advantage of. And for a place where, people are, this is one of those places where there's always inventory and always opportunity if you understand how to take advantage of it, from small to medium land deals to even large land deals, physical property deals and fix and flips to, as we get into passive income strategies like safe tax liens and rental properties and commercial properties. We're also going to talk a little about owner finance deals and lease options and how to put together other different scenarios of what you can take advantage of. Because there are different strategies, which is one of my expertise. This is a property in San Antonio, Texas, where we can take a property that we buy, in this case, like for $275, rehab it and then turn around and sell it for $540,000. And so I'm going to spend some time getting in detail on that side of the business as well, so you guys can understand what that is. And I'll actually show you a lot of the fix and flip properties that I was engaged in and what our results were because of that. And so we're also going to show you exit strategies and how to take advantage of those exit strategies and what's the best exit strategy based on the property, the situation, and what you want to get into. And, so as we get into all of that, for the $499, that includes a ticket for you and one other person, whether it's a spouse, partner, guest that you can bring along with you. It also can do, you get a post during the event, you get a strategy session to sit down with one of our strategists and figure out what your plan should leave moving forward. And you also get 6 months of our membership. where you get weekly live webinars, you know, thousands of pages of materials, the U.S. state written guides, auction calendar lists, over-the-counter lists, online auction links page, and a lot of other things that we give you access to for that $499. And so that is going to be next weekend, the April 22nd to the 24th in Orlando, Florida. If you need more details on it, if you have questions about it, just call the number here at the bottom of the webinar, the 800-425-8068, and learn more. You can definitely, you know, sit down and talk to one of our staff that have information for it, can answer questions for it, and help you move forward. And hope to see you there, because we're gonna, you know, like I said, at the very least, this is a no risk scenario for you. You can go there, and if at the end of the first day you don't feel like this is for you, you can cancel for a full refund. So we have that 1-day guarantee that I mentioned earlier, that if you attend the 3-day and you find it's not for you, you can cancel, get your refund, and, you know, we'll wish you the best. But we are very confident in our abilities to help teach and train and educate you on these strategies and help you have, you know, a great investing future, because it's 2022 and there's a lot of opportunities coming down the road. And, you know, I always ask the question, if not this, what? If not now, when? You know, what am I going to do moving forward? How am I going to build a better life? How are you going to build, you know, a more secure future for yourself? You know, tax liens and deeds are one of those few investment strategies, especially tax deeds, where, you know, they're alternative investment strategies that can protect your retirement against recession and against inflation, because we're all seeing that go on, and really take advantage of what those opportunities are. So it's been really great, you know, talking to you guys today. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna be excited to, can we go back to that last slide there? We're gonna be excited to, you know, keep working with you, you know, but call that number if you have any questions. I know when I just checked why Stephen and Shade were going through some things, we still have a couple of spots available if you guys want to attend. 2 of them were taken up. We've got 3 left, and that's 1-800-425-8068. And, you know, take advantage of this opportunity, and we look forward to see you in person and spending 3 days with you and with our other mentors and trainers that will be there, and myself will be there, as well as Stephen Shade. So we look forward to seeing you guys, and go ahead and give us a call and we'll figure it out, okay, and get you there. Have a great day, you guys.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Thanks for doing that. And by the way, we just had one question there. How many people are in the class? It's not a very big class. I think, you know, I think we had, what, 25, 30 people, you know, although that doesn't include partners, but it's going to be a fairly small class for any of you that do want to attend. And we kind of like to keep it that way. We like to keep things a little bit more personal, so that we can have more time to spend with the individuals there. So. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And if you have any other questions, you're welcome to please call us here on the 800 number, and we can answer any questions for you. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us.